The Sports Underground is brought to you by Best Western Plus Mall of America, Bloomington, Minnesota. Welcome back, Sports Underground. Hello again from the Best Western Plus Mall of America in Bloomington. Mike and Kent back with you again. Been a little while since we've sat in these chairs and done a show for you. But we'll do a little bit of a review here on the NFL season. And the last time we talked to you, we were at the midpoint basically. Kind of the usual suspects were around: Patriots, Steelers, Ravens, Packers, all kind of there. And then things got interesting because we actually played the games.
Yeah, definitely. What did you take away from last season? Anything at all?
Well, I guess number one would be Tebow Mania.
It's got to be the season of Tebow. And like I said, whether the Packers finish 16-0 or not, it's almost going to be remembered. 2011 is going to be remembered as a season of Tebow.
Yeah, he came on like a freight train, dipped a little bit, but still got a win in the playoffs. And that's all you could see on TV, all you could read in the papers was Tebow, Tebow, Tebow. And I think that, we talked a little about this off air. If he's not the quarterback of the future, you're sort of stuck with him because what do you do going forward?
Well, you can't. He's the quarterback of the present, that's for sure. If you bench that guy or run him out of town and replace him, whether you're John Elway or not, they will hang you in that town.
Yeah,
I think the entire nation would.
Well, I think you're right, because I think he was voted most popular athlete in America. Tim Tebow, folks. Tim Tebow. Most popular athlete. Not Derek Jeter, not Kobe Bryant, not LeBron James. It's Tim Tebow.
It's almost like they love to hate him because, if everybody's always on his case in ESPN and things like that, but if they bench him, they'd be like, why are you benching him? He won you 7 games in a row and won you a playoff game. And his footwork and his...
Yeah, he's taken heat for being a good guy.
The guy can't win. He cannot win. And what I said is all these parents that want good, positive role models for their kids, that guy's not going to be found anywhere near a strip club shooting it up at 3 in the morning. He's not going to get a DUI anywhere. He's not going to start slapping around women. And is that almost all you can ask for out of an athlete these days?
I would think so, and he's being punished for that because he's too clean and likes God. Well, I guess, like you say, if that's the worst thing we ever hear about Tim Tebow was he dropped on his knees and said a prayer after he threw a touchdown, I guess I'll take it. And I just don't see, as a nation as a whole, why we're so hard on the guy for, if you believe in God or not, living a pretty clean, pretty good life, looking out for others, trying to give a little bit back, and not being the 3 a.m. thug, I guess.
Yeah, and so aside from his religious beliefs, he's a good all-around guy.
Right.
You can't find a flaw in his character, which speaks volumes for him, I think.
Oh, I think you're right. So, staying on the Tebow subject a little bit here, we talked a little bit off-air about is he making it easier for the running style of quarterback, to come into the league and make a splash or at least get a shot where 3-4 years ago they just wouldn't.
Well, I think he's forging a new path, and I think something you said he's a bigger frame, a bigger body. He's a different type of element of quarterback than what we're used to in the running quarterback. He's not built like Michael Vick or Randall Cunningham. Mm-hmm. He's not as big he's bigger than Steve Young.
Right.
Fran Tarkenton era. It's a different evolution of a game. And
well, you had 2 running style quarterbacks come in the league this year. Cam Newton with Carolina, a little more prototypical in the way he can actually throw a ball down the field. Big, fast, strong. He is a running quarterback. A little more than like Aaron Rodgers being mobile. I would say Newton is running. Tebow is more of a quarterback built in a fullback's body. He's a running back who happens to be able to throw, where Newton, I think, is a quarterback who throws, who can happen to run.
I agree.
And I don't know that Tebow...
I think you have to respect a few more elements of Cam Newton's game.
I think so, too.
Which, is that going to carry him farther as a quarterback in his career?
Well, until he gets hit in the knee and his knee blows out and he can't run, what happens then? That's the one thing no one ever talks about with all these running quarterbacks. Tebow looks like a fullback. He can take a beating, and Lord knows he did. The Patriots pretty much pounded him over and over again.
It's no secret that people are out to get that guy in the NFL. They don't like him.
Right. But is there a reason that your Tom Brady's, now I know he blew a knee once, Peyton Manning hurt his neck, is there a reason that those kind of drop-back passers, Eli Manning, they don't seem to ever get dinged, get nicked? They play, for the most part, they've been pretty healthy their whole career. Now, is a running quarterback, like look at Dante Culpepper. He was a scrambler, lost a knee, lost a career. Is that the fear of all their RG3s, the Cam Newtons? though the new style of running quarterback coming out, is there more risk because of the way they play the position? You know, Michael Vick, look how much that guy's out on a week-in basis because of concussions or a knee or ankle or whatever.
Ribs or something. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I think you have a point there. Is there maybe this a little bit of an element that people respect Peyton Manning, respect Aaron Rodgers, respect Tom Brady, so they're not maybe quite as inclined to take a cheap shot on them? Or, I don't know, actions happen. I mean, I'd like to think nobody's trying to take out somebody's knee because that's devastating.
Right. Well,
Or are they getting protected better?
or here's the other point. Do the referees protect those kind of quarterbacks better? Does Michael Vick take extra hits because of the way he plays? Do they let him be a little rougher because, oh, he's got a little escapability, so we don't want to let him go down the first hit.
Right.
We'll let him get held up and then
So-
smoked in the ribs.
So his leash a little longer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's something going forward the NFL is really going to have to look at because it is a different game, bigger, faster, stronger, and a lot of these offenses are now built on being able to run. Aaron Rodgers, you wouldn't say he's a running quarterback, but he's mobile and he can get up and down the field when he has to. So there's a lot of new elements coming in the NFL that weren't here 15 years ago.
Right, and how about the evolution of the concussion? Is this not the year of the concussion too?
If Tim Tebow is story 1, the concussion is story 1A, because you're right. Troy Aikman retires from concussions 15 years ago.
But you
and
didn't.
No one
if
says a word about it.
If you ask somebody why did Troy Aikman retire, I don't know, he got old. It was really because of concussions.
And he was one of the first high-profile athletes where it even came up a lot. You knew quarterbacks had it, but you never really heard about it. They swept things kind of under the rug a long time ago.
Yeah.
And now it seems like, if not a player a week, one every couple weeks is always out with a concussion, or he's got to pass a test to be able to play the next week. There's always some kind of story going on about this.
So why are we hearing about this now? Were concussions as prevalent in the 70s and 80s and 90s so much? I don't think the hits have gotten softer, and I think you had mentioned that the equipment has gotten better.
You would think so, but the thing is, I think a lot of it's the media we live in. Everything's instant. If you are ESPN and you don't know that Tim Tebow got knocked with a concussion first, you lose credibility. Everyone wants to be first. We got to report everything first. And the thing is that I'm glad the NFL is looking at. I don't want anyone's brain scrambled because of this.
No.
But it was kind of the year of the injury. And another thing, I guess, that we didn't even mention before, how much of the Adrian Peterson's ACL, the concussions, all these big injuries, did it affect because we didn't have an offseason. We were locked out all offseason. Now, I know a brain injury is tough to, maybe that doesn't have so much to do with it, but there was a lot of big injuries this year. Matt Schaub goes down, Andre Johnson misses a lot of the year. A lot of high-profile players got some pretty bad injuries. Is that related to the lockout?
It could possibly be related to some conditioning, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and strength.
So, I guess next year watch a little closer, see if the injury pattern continues, or is it just too big, too fast, too strong? Are some of these guys going to kill someone on the field someday because they're too big, too fast, too strong?
Well, I mean, how much bigger and faster and stronger have they gotten since the 70s, 80s, 90s? I mean, obviously you've seen a progression.
Well,
You
yeah,
have to.
300-pound linemen that run like linebackers did back in the 70s. I mean,
Right.
It's pretty crazy.
And, I mean, back in the 70s for steroids, you had probably actual horse steroids or something.
Right.
That they were
They're not
taking.
designer drugs to make you
But now they
to
have
target things. Yeah.
Now they have GNC, where places you can go and just get armloads of, $1,200 worth of steroids legally,
Right.
and enhance your body that way.
That's very
And
true.
everybody's
No, you're
trying
right.
to get the upper hand on every.
No, you're absolutely right. So, yeah, Tebow Mania, the Packers, 15-1, had a chance to run 16-0. They got run out of the playoffs. That's kind of another one of those.
Touchy
stories.
circumstances surrounding that playoff loss, but I got the feeling that they were kind of looking past the Giants. It seemed like they didn't take them serious enough. I think they thought they were on their home turf. They did have the controversy surrounding their coach. That was unfortunate. However, Packers a better team on paper. Giants a better team that day.
Oh, absolutely, and by a long way. And the thing, too, is the Packers, now, being a Viking fan, I know everyone's going to say this comes off the sour grapes, but a pretty arrogant bunch. It always seems that they've kind of got that swagger, that little, we're better than you. We won the Super Bowl last year, we maybe shouldn't have. And I think that they did kind of take it for granted that we're going to be back, we're better than all of you, we're going to roll over everyone. But when your defense is bad and you don't get turnovers, amazing what happens when you don't force turnovers to overcome your lack of, stopping ability. I mean, the Giants went up and down the field on them at will.
You will get exposed, and the Giants have mind you, the Giants almost beat them too.
They did.
They came down to I believe like a 3-second field goal or something.
Right.
But the Giants have those big physical receivers
Mm-hmm.
that the Packers had a hard time with, and Woodson was maybe starting to show his age a little bit.
Well, they couldn't get to Manning at all. I mean, they blitzed. Manning's still back there anyway. They laid back. He picked them apart. The Giants probably just not a team you wanted to play it that week.
No, and it's hard to scrutinize a team that was 15-1, and congratulations, but
Right.
maybe there are some holes there, and maybe some things need to be corrected.
Well, now their offensive coordinator goes to take a job with the Dolphins as a head coach. There's a position to fill. So success breeds people leaving, and the way they ended the season, probably a few more question marks than you would have thought going forward with the Packers next year.
Yeah, next season, how do you project them? I mean, considering that they do their normal thing, they stand pat, they draft a guy you never heard of, but he turns out to be a Pro Bowler,
Right.
and re-sign people that need to be re-signed.
Probably still a playoff team, but we'll get to this a little later. I think they might have some, the Lions may have something to say about this, because they snuck in the playoffs this year, and you keep Ndamukong Suh's head on, right? They look like maybe they're ready to start taking up the next step up the ladder, maybe challenge the Packers for that division, and maybe even challenge for the NFC next year.
So to wrap it up, who do you like in the Super Bowl, or who do you like in the playoffs this weekend?
Well, you got to like the Patriots at home. If they lost, I wouldn't be shocked, but if you're going to time me down, make me make a pick, I'll take Belichick and Brady. They seem to figure out a way to get things done. And in the NFC, I really like the Niners. Home field, big advantage. It's going to be sloppy. It's going to be muddy. I think for one game, Jim Harbaugh might be your guy, because if there's a more rah-rah coach in the NFL, I don't know if there is. And it seems that whatever button he pushes, these players respond to him. I know the Giants are hot. That's a long distance across the country to travel, and most teams that go east to west don't fare too well. I'm going to go ahead and give you Niners by 10. I'm going to go 20-10 49ers.
Ooh, okay. Well, obviously Jim Harbaugh, great job this year, probably Coach of the Year.
I would say so. I don't think there's any
I
question.
don't think there's a question about it. First of all, I agree with you on the Patriots. They're just too experienced, and they're too good offensively.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost going the opposite way. Defense wins championships, now offensive wins championships. It's just the way it is. I agree with you there. However, it wouldn't surprise me if Baltimore won either.
Right.
So it's, none of these games are going to surprise me. Whoever wins.
No, absolutely.
However, on the NFC side, the Giants have some momentum coming off a big win. The Giants, if it comes down to all things equal, I'll take the better quarterback.
Right.
Eli Manning is a better quarterback.
Was the Giants' victory over the Packers their Super Bowl already? Do you go into Lambeau, put everything you've got in that basket, now you take the big deep breath, we beat them, and you go and overlook the 49ers?
Good question. We'll find out. I don't know how to answer that. I really don't. That is, yeah. That I think for the first time in a long time, you're seeing four fairly evenly matched teams, and you can make arguments for each one winning.
Yeah, no, I mean, the
what I mean?
Patriots, you would think if you look at these four teams, you'd say, the Patriots are by far the best team.
Yeah.
They're really not. I mean, you're right. They are pretty even.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to say Giants 23-20, so it's not like, it's not like it could go the other way around, too. So
Absolutely. So a lot of fun coming up, NFL playoffs. Hopefully we'll be back soon to recap a little more after the Super Bowl, and we'll give you some thoughts on that. But we do want to do a little bit of recap from the rest of the league. We touched on the Patriots, obviously winning the division. AFC East, the thing I take the most out of it is the Jets falling on their faces, and maybe Rex's mouth was writing checks that the team couldn't cash.
Well, there's that. I think you definitely have to question leadership, especially after this year, but I question the quarterback. I've never thought that Sanchez was that good. I don't think he warranted a trade up to a number 6 draft pick at the time either. I think that was quite a stretch. There's better options out there for that team at quarterback, and something I noticed with them, they're trying to kind of buy their way into the Super Bowl and get some key players in some key spots that have some history of being talented. But it reminds me a lot of the Washington Redskins, and it never worked for them.
Yeah, ask Dan Snyder.
Never
how
worked
out for him. Yeah. So then you have the AFC South. The Texans win the division without Matt Schaub for most of the year, without Andre Johnson for most of the year, without Mario Williams for most of the year. You got to like the pieces that are in place for the Texans.
I think winning the division isn't so much of a surprise, but winning it the way they did without those players, yes.
Now, I know that you want to talk about people being lost. Peyton Manning, of course, doesn't play at all for the Colts this year. And next thing you know, GMs and coaches are being fired all over the place. Interesting situation. Andrew Luck in the fold. Obviously, they're going to draft him. I don't see a situation where they don't. Do you keep Manning? Do you let him go? $28 million question. Can you say goodbye to Peyton Manning?
Well, first of all, I didn't think they'd be that bad.
Right.
I mean, that bad. They were bad.
Well, yeah,
for a long
there's
time.
no depth. There's no talent. Peyton Manning obviously covers more
Yeah.
flaws than even you and I thought he could.
But to answer your question, I don't know if I could look at myself in the mirror if I'm Jim Irsay and say that I let go of Peyton Manning. Plus, he's everything that you've earned. If it wasn't for him, your team would probably be in LA.
Mm-hmm.
You owe that man everything, and to sit there and turn your back on him. But $28 million is a heck of a business decision.
It is. And now Andrew Luck, an unproven commodity, he could be the next Ryan Leaf. You'd like to think he's not going to be from everything you've heard, but he could be. So do you look at the Packers and say, they ran out Brett Favre, worked out pretty well for them. But obviously, Rodgers had been in the system a little bit. He had 3 years under his belt. You sort of knew what you were getting. But I guess at some point you've got to pull the string. Is $28 million the reason you pull the string now?
I would say, I would say if I had a hunch, they get rid of him, and they blame it on the neck,
Yeah.
and they say we just didn't trust him. We didn't want him to see him play again.
Right.
You know, we thought he was going to retire. We're sorry, and he ends up going to play for, you know, someone who's obviously better than the Vikings, but needs a quarterback, and there aren't that many teams out there.
The
The
Jets.
Jets. The Jets are one of them.
Seattle,
Seattle, maybe.
Washington, Cleveland. You know, there is options for him out there. The
No, I know.
Dolphins.
I was going to say Dolphins.
Yeah.
You know, there's better options than Cleveland, but
The Cardinals, they run Cobb out of town, put him in there. So lots of discussion, and this is going to keep going throughout the offseason until a decision's made. So this isn't the end of this at
This
all.
story's in infancy for sure. So
AFC North, the big surprise out of there, obviously the Bengals. They draft A.J. Green. They don't miss T.O. and Ocho Cinco at all. Andy Dalton comes in. See you later, Carson Palmer. They make the playoffs. They look like a team on the rise. Probably the biggest surprise in the AFC, other than Tebow Mania, would have to be the Bengals.
that would be my story. Team of the AFC anyway. That I didn't think they'd win a game.
No, we sat here and told you that, yeah, they'd be one of the 4 or 5 worst teams in the NFL.
Well, they basically started from scratch this year with players at key positions, wide receiver and quarterback.
Right.
So they had a lot of questions to answer, and they did.
Yeah, they did. And I think going forward, the team you want to keep an eye on as the Ravens get older, as the Steelers get a little older. And, you know, Steelers, just a moment on them. Injuries probably what keeping us from talking about them still in the playoffs. Roethlisberger's ankle, Mendenhall goes down, and then, of course, they get T-boned.
Yep.
But they were pretty beat up at the end of the year.
Yeah, my preseason Super Bowl pick did go out early, but they did look aged. They looked worn out, and they were injured.
Yeah, they were. And then move to the AFC West quickly. The big story besides Tebow out there is the Chargers' demise. Once again, picked to be great, and they are not.
Yep, Chargers' demise. They always put up those gaudy fantasy numbers, but in the end, it seems like they're just not good enough.
Yeah, they always make their run, but it's always too late.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. It's you can draw parallels with the Vikings there. But,
Yeah, you probably can.
you know.
So moving on to the NFC, starting out in the NFC West, the big story there, obviously, the 49ers, 13-3, they're on the verge of going to the Super Bowl. Jim Harbaugh comes in from Stanford. Same players, basically, they had before, and they're 7 games better. So, was it all bad coaching, or did he just get the most out of these guys?
You could make an argument that it was bad coaching. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, our linebackers didn't exactly take a turn up with Mr. Singletary at the helm.
No, they did not. I think on the other side of that spectrum, a team that surprised me is how bad the Rams were. I
Yeah.
thought that with, I believe they were 8-8 last year, and kind of on the rise. I thought they would be maybe pushing for a playoff team, especially with the young quarterback and a good running back. And
Injuries with Bradford, though, he did miss a lot of the season, in and out of the lineup, so you don't know there's questions there, but coach does get fired, so obviously you weren't the only one who was disappointed with what went on out
Right.
there. Then moving to the NFC East, Giants win the division, come from the dead the last few weeks to overtake the Cowboys. Once again, Cowboys equals epic fail. I can't get enough of the Cowboys going down in flames. I love watching Jerry Jones squirm. And you know what? Defiant as he is, he's going to keep being the GM. He's going to keep putting that team together. And luckily for us, he's going to keep doing that.
well, maybe he'll trade us Romo.
That would be nice.
How about the other disappointing team in the NFC would be Eagles?
Eagles very disappointing. Yeah, from dream team to almost bottom of the division.
And it sounds like somebody or some of the teams found out how to play Vic a little better.
Yeah.
Defend him a little
They
better.
did hit him hard, hit him late, and see how
But
tough he is.
that whole division's always a slobber knocker. It doesn't matter how bad the Redskins are; they always play each other tough.
Oh, you're right about
You know.
that. The NFC South, kind of the usual suspects. The Saints win the division. The Falcons get in the playoffs. Tampa Bay, kind of a disappointment. They lost 10 in a row to end the
Yeah.
season. And I know before we did the preseason picks, they're one of my teams I kind of thought were in the playoffs. Going to be one of those teams to make a little bit of a difference. But Raheem Morris loses his job, and Josh Friedman took a step back.
Yeah,
this year.
interesting to see how they respond next year.
Yeah, I
That's a
think
team
so,
to keep
too.
your eye on too. Falcons fizzle out. Panthers might be on the rise.
They could be. Obviously, Cam Newton looks like the real deal.
Yeah.
It's only been a season.
Yeah.
You know, he's one knee injury away from going down.
There's another one to keep an eye on too.
But
next
yeah,
year.
he had a great year, much better than I thought he was going to have. And then, of course, coming back to the old home, the NFC North, the Vikings. Obviously, we sat here and told you they were going to be terrible. Everyone else said, "Oh, playoffs, going to contend." We get down to McNabb, and who's laughing now? They were awful.
If you ask me, we are the worst team in the league
Mhm.
because the Colts have an ace in the hole,
Mhm.
whether it's a number one pick or Peyton Manning.
Right?
The Colts were too injured this year. I mean, I think they have some good players and some good spots. The Vikes have nothing. They
Well-
are flatlined, especially after they lost Adrian Peterson.
Mhm.
They have nothing. They have nothing to look forward to. They have no depth. I don't even think they have any money.
No, and we're going to get into this a lot more. We're going to do a Vikings segment coming up, but they're in denial too. They think they're rebuilding just a little bit. They thought they could contend for a playoff. So I don't want to get into it all right now, but it's a complete mess at Winter Park. The Lions, we talked about them a little bit, up and coming. Probably one of the bigger surprises in the NFC, how they took that next jump.
Were you surprised?
During the season, yes, because of the stuff that Ndamukong and Sue pulled, and it seemed like they were kind of a team run amok. I was surprised they got it back together to get where they were. But if you go back to the beginning of the season, no, because I knew offensively they would be good, and you figured that they were going to fight and be one of those teams on the bubble. I just didn't think the way the season went, they would get in.
Yeah, I knew they were going to put up some points.
Right.
I knew that, but it seemed like they just needed to be kind of harnessed a little bit and maybe led a little better. Be like, okay, hold on,
Right.
okay.
And then the other team in the division, the Bears, looked like they were going to be a contender. Cutler goes down, Forte goes down, and the season's over. Now Mike Martz gets run out of town, and Mike Tice takes over. Forte's a free agent. Where do they go next year? Does Cutler come back? He actually looked like he had figured it out when he went down.
How important is a starting quarterback in NFL?
Ask the Vikings about that.
That's the Rams.
Yeah,
That's the Bears.
very true. So that's a little bit of a recap. We're going to take a little break, and we'll be back in the Sports Underground breaking down a little bit of the Vikings season.